on here. We actually need food, especially poor, starving people. Remember them? Socialists, aren't those the people that you're supposed to be on the side of? Well, all you're doing with your idiot utopian globalism and your environmental apocalypse and your willingness to identify yourself as part of the moral elite because you care about the planet is dooming, well, Michael thinks, 1 billion people to starvation. So what the hell? How is that moral? Well, you know, the climate problem is so serious that if we have to starve a few people to solve it, it's like, fair enough, man. Let's say you're right. Well, you're not, because as soon as you make people poor, you make the environment worse. Period. The end. Not just a little bit worse. Way worse. Radically worse. Just wait till you see what happens to Sri Lanka on the sustainable biological front. There are some concerns on the environmental front, like there always are. We've overfished the oceans to a terrible degree, and it would be better if we polluted as the least possible. And there is some evidence that human contributions to global warming are a genuine thing, but I looked at the data as broadly as I possibly could on that front, and I think it's appalling, and it's a reflection of the ignorance and Luciferian pretensions of the globalist utopians and their absolute inability of themselves to become educated on this front.
This system is emerging. The LNG is now cut off. So a lot of these things that are important right now might seem unimportant just 1 month from now, if that energy is not turned back on again, because this is going to cause an immediate cascade, right? And this summer will be over. Yesterday, you know, it was so hot here, some places closed. And so but they actually were closing some places here because it was too hot, and some public transportation. And it made me think, you know, this is actually kind of a minor challenge. This winter is going to be cold. This is a very serious deal. As you know, energy is a kill shot for food, right? I mean, if there's not enough energy, they're not going to be able to create the fertilizer and transport the fertilizers they need. We already saw a large fertilizer plant close down in Norway and others as well. That's just one of others.
And Ukraine and Russia are major sources of fertilizer production.
Yes. And China has just stopped their exports as well, and many others.
Jesus.
So I mean, this is a cascade. And it's almost like a Kessler syndrome cascade here, right? I mean, it's just, and at this point, I think there's too much inertia to stop it at this point. I think we could have headed it off even a year ago if we suddenly had serious leadership.
What we have is leadership who meet and then laugh about Putin's shirtless photos. That's what we have instead of serious leadership. Yeah, we have a pack of
many issues. The inertia is too heavy at this point. We're going to see a lot of starvation and a lot of human osmotic pressure, the migration. And of course, this leads to pandemic. We'll have real pandemics because, again, when you have many people starving, first of all, they start migrating and eating things they don't normally eat, and their immune systems are depressed. Anyway, bottom line is, every time you get big famines, you get big pandemics, which will create more war. We get that positive feedback loop. Europe's got a problem with energy this winter. That's just a fact of life, which means next year, remember, famine creates famine. Next year, we're not going to have enough fertilizer, period. We're eating the food that's already been grown at this point. You know, we're not going to be able to be sending food out to all over Africa and these sorts of places without starving our own people. Now, keep in mind, by the way, during famines, often countries like China were exporting huge amounts of food while their own people were starving. Mao was doing that. Actually, Stalin did that when Ukraine was starving. That's a strange thing about famine. Some countries continue to export food while their people starve, but that's a side topic.
I sure hope you're deluded and wrong, but I'm afraid you're probably not. And that's really sad and horrifying. And we're going to be lucky if we get through this winter without major bloody catastrophe, as far as I can tell, on about 5 different fronts. And this absolute abdication of leadership in the West, especially on the environmental front, is right at the forefront of all of this.